find out, you'll do all your fuel calculations, and then continue on. And I want to see, for one, if you're within the envelope. Well, we'll talk about the envelope. Just fill out a couple of them and see if you're overweight or underweight. Because max gross for the Cessna 172 is 2,550 pounds. The max ramp weight is 2,558 pounds. Does anybody know why it's different?
This
is ramp weight versus takeoff weight. Because max takeoff is 2,550. And takeoff. So that's accounted for. They assume 1.4 gallons. So one of the things you have to remember, we're talking about weight, right? Not a gallon. We want the weight of it. How much does fuel weigh? 6 pounds per gallon. So figure out how many gallons you're going to hold and how many you're going to burn, and then multiply that times 6.
So for like the baggage and things, you just want us to like put in smart charting?
Yeah. So just think of scenarios. What's a scenario that you might want to do in an airplane? I'm sorry? Okay. Or go camping. You know, things like that. If you pack out a moose, it's going to be a little bit different because you're not going to probably carry fuel with you. So you're going to go there burning fuel. Then you're going to add, so you're going to have the fuel that you land with. Then you're going to add in the weight of the moose that you're going to be packing out. So.
Does that probably be important to know your average burn if you're going to be?
Where would you find that?
Where?
I say, isn't that something you would keep track of over multiple flights to see what you're like?
You can.
Accurate?
Yes, definitely. If you doubt the performance of your airplane. Ours are they're new enough, they're well maintained enough. They don't have any modifications to them.
Does it say it in the POH?
It does. In the performance section. So you'll go to the cruise performance. So when we get to flight planning, if you thought that the little bit of interpolation that we did earlier was bad, you didn't see anything yet. Because you're going to have to deal with multiple charts. Because you're going to have time, fuel, and distance to climb chart. And you're going to have your cruise charts. And any altitude change, you're going to have to go back to this. So say you take off from here, we're sea level, right? We climb up. We're going to half of our portion of our flight is going to be from sea level to 2,000. We're cruising at 2,000. Then we have to climb to 6,000 feet. So now you're going to have to do the calculation, figure out what the burn is there. Because guess what it gives you? Time and distance also, and fuel burn. So you'll subtract the distance from your overall distance, and then you have to do other calculations for that remaining cruise portion of your flight off of that chart.
So you find the burn for all the different, pretty much chunks of your flight, and so you can calculate it all together.
Gallons per hour, gallons per hour, gallons per hour. 20 below, standard, and 20 above. What is this chart taking into account? Temperature, which helps us figure out, it takes care of the density altitude side of the house. But yeah, here it doesn't give you gallons per hour, it gives you fuel used for each altitude change. The distance it takes and the time. What your rate should be, what your speeds are going to be.
Measures fuel used, what is that measurement?
This is it. If you do take off here and you climb to 2,000 feet, it says that in that climb, you should burn 0.8 gallons of fuel.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if it's in gallons or if it's total.
Gallons, it's going to have to be in gallons.
From sea level.
But that's from sea level. So what's the difference between 2,000 and sea level? I'm sorry, from 2,000 and 6,000? How much? So are you burning 2.2? Or are you going to burn the 1.4? Right, just for that climb. Now, Obviously, if you did a climb from here to 6,000, it's going to be the total because you'll just add them up. But you need to know that for each leg of how much fuel you're burning per leg. So it gets to be a nightmare. Ask Joe about it. He loves this fun.
We're not gonna do that in this class.
Yes, we are. Go and look at your syllabus. Flight planning. You're dealing with all the wonderfulness. And of course, that week is just prior to the final. Has anybody noticed where we're at? Have you looked at the schedule to see where we're at? Are we right on time?
I think we're ahead.
We're a week ahead, aren't we? Which is good, because it's going to give us that last week to actually, we will do some review. It gives you a chance to, because you're getting bits and pieces as we go. And I talk about past information and bring it up with what we're talking about now, because everything we talk about is interconnected. It all comes together. And once we get to the end, the flight planning is going to be the bulk. That's where all of this comes in together, because you're dealing with weather, aeronautical factors, performance, systems, everything. It all comes together there. So you'll want some review, because we'll want to talk about past stuff. And then I want each of you to fully understand how to do a nav log and to flight plan. All right, why is CG important regarding stability?
Like I said, average performance, moving forwards, stall recovery.
Good. So stability and recoverability. And ultimately,
Same thing.
why? What's the problem with forward CG?
It's hard.
I'm sorry?
It's hard to.
Take off.
Yeah, you might not be able to get off the ground. And then an aft CG, or another one with forward CG, so you can get off from one airport, but you're coming in to another airport. Maybe you can't land it because you can't flare. Now you're going to land either really hard, or you might have prop strike. Or the worst thing, you ground loop and flip the airplane because you can't pull up enough. What about aft CG? It's possible. You might get into a flat spin also, and that's going to be unrecoverable. So definitely affects safety. Questions on all this?
I was kind of just thinking about like lift and stuff. What if you're on a runway? I think, I don't know, maybe bush piloting would probably work with this, but if you're on a runway and it's really short and there's like a drop off, like a cliff, because I heard there are some like that.
Yeah, there's the one up by the Himalayas.
Yeah, so if it's too short, like, can you just use the lift of dropping to go up?
There are videos on this.
You know what I'm saying? I've never.
It's
seen
all
it,
going to
but-
depend on the airport and what's around it. I mean, if it's a sheer drop off, you're not going to be at risk of hitting anything.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that comes. Who makes that call?
You.
Pilot in command.
So
What's your life worth?
that comes down to your decision making. So is
But
it
it's
possible?
possible,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. I mean, you can altitude and airspeed. You could trade one for the other. You can reduce your airspeed by pitching up and without changing power, lead off airspeed, but gain altitude. Or you could pitch down and lose altitude, but gain airspeed.
Dangerous man airspeed.
If you never touch your power and you pitch that plane down, it will accelerate. You're trading altitude for airspeed, or airspeed for altitude. It's a give and take. I like to tell, when I talk to students about stalls and stuff like that, you trade altitude for airspeed and airspeed for altitude, but you can't have both without an engine. So that comes into the stalls. It's why maneuvering speed is glide, the VG, the best glide is so important. Because anything less or greater, if you pitch for 70 versus 68 or 66 versus 68, on either end, you are descending faster. Doesn't matter how fast you're going. Slow or fast, if it's not VG and you are trying to get the most lateral distance, you're not going to get the max performance out of the airplane at anything less than best glide. So you have to be disciplined with that. It's very hard when you're on approach, and this is why people stall. You're coming in and you see you're going to be short, or you think you're going to be short, and you instinctually start adding back pressure, and all you're doing is increasing the rate of descent. You're not stretching your glide. You're reducing it. That's a killer. Ask him. We had an approach not too long ago. We're at night, and it's very hard to gauge altitude at night, and we were getting low. And what do you have to do? Add power, and what else? Forward pressure on the yoke. Because when you add power, the nose wants to come up. Well, if that nose comes up, what happens to your airspeed? The last thing I want to do is stall short of the runway.
So when you go down to accelerate, are you like gaining like the angle of attack?
Well, you're reducing
angle?
you're reducing angle of attack because you are pitching down.
Okay.
But you're pitching down, and now you are losing altitude. You're using gravity to help accelerate the airplane.
Mhm.
So you're using gravity to your advantage at that point. Otherwise, in order to gain altitude, we either need to scrub off velocity or we need to use thrust to fight gravity. So always using some force in flight. What else? Any other questions?
Are we able to account for those simulators in our load?
You can, as long as it's with a,
Certified.
he should be okay as an AGI to sign you off in your logbook. But I can. Well, I hope both have an AGI and a CFI, so. But he should be able to as an AGI, because it is ground training. Cool, no other questions? All right, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Don't forget your homework.
Nothing.
I got it.
Oh, yeah. People like to do that. That's so cool.
I've been noticing. It'll be smooth.
Yeah, which is annoying. I didn't know it was going to do that when I first got it.
Oh, or I have to like flip back maybe or something.
No, it